everyone. Welcome back to 123 Conversations, or welcome if this is the first time you're tuning in. 123 Conversations is a show where we go over one topic or one guest. We ask the two of us, Terry Dean, who's over here, and myself are the hosts, and we ask three questions around that one topic or to the one guest. But if you've been watching us, you know we never keep it to three questions. We go off the rails even in introductions.
But keep the name and call it good.
Exactly. And our whole point of doing this show is that you find whatever inspiration, strategies, guidance that will help motivate you, give you tips on how to move forward, or whatever else that you need when you're with us. So if you like our shows, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We have a host of other experts all along our YouTube channel or wherever else you might be listening. So I'm one of your co-hosts, Candace Thomas. I am an intuitive coach, which is just a fancy pants way of saying I teach leaders how to use their intuition on purpose to get tangible results in the world. And Terry Dean is a co-host. She is, man, what do I say about Terry? She does everything, right? But she is a creative entrepreneur. She's working over 30 years in marketing and sales and helps businesses, individuals, business owners, like small, large scale, like get results and get seen. And it's so amazing because I feel like, Terry, you have a parallel with our guest, Tayloria Grant, who is, I think, on the bottom box on our screen if you're watching on YouTube. But Tayloria Grant is one of our favorite people ever. She was our first ever guest ever. So if you're listening or watching 123 Conversations, check out her original video, which was how to pivot. And there were still a few months left in 2020 when we first met with you, Tayloria. And so she's back again. It's so glorious. We were like just catching up and having a mini reunion before we went live, and we're really excited. So for those of you who don't know, Tayloria is a visibility catalyst, a cross-cultural coach and speaker. She helps entrepreneurs and professionals conquer fears and shine brighter online using social media marketing while becoming industry experts. So we hear all the time, like, you got to put yourself out there, and like your people are online, so you have to be online too. And I know it can be so overwhelming. So Tayloria is here to just give us the real talk and break it down, especially for those of us who really feel called to show up in the world in a better way or to help people out with whatever our products or services may be. So Tayloria, welcome. Thank you for coming back. Yeah, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you both for having me again. I love everything that you are doing, even since the first episode. And how amazing is it to see many female entrepreneurs just showing up, shining brighter right here on 123 Conversations.
I know, right? It's like, it wasn't even, we had somewhat of an intention, but but we didn't know that it would be this awesome. Like, we kind of suspected, because originally when we started the show, I mean, talking about visibility, Terry and I kind of hid, like we weren't that visible with what we were doing.
It happens to the best of us.
Right. So in talking about visibility, let's just dive right on in. And my first question for you is, what are some of the reasons that women don't show up and be visible?
Yes, there is the key word of fear. Now, because we are all unique, the reasons for the fear run the gamut. It may be, I don't feel like I'm good enough, or even that, I'm afraid of being criticized or judged. But even one that I've heard even more recently, and I even think about, myself, is I don't even like how I look on camera. I don't even like how my voice sounds. And with that, as women, I just want to encourage, because we have the aging process. We often may have children, all of these things that are gifts, but also cause for us to look different. But I want to just end with, I think, with this piece of it, Candace and Terry, is like, if we get outside of ourselves and just remember that is all about us. It's all about us. What will people say? All of these things. How do I look? If we remember who we're doing this for, our why, our purpose, and the impact we're supposed to make, it will immediately begin to help us with those fears and conquer those fears and limiting beliefs.
it really does shift. It shifts in your brain like almost in an instant, you know. It's like get out of our own way. Because I know our intention now, and I loved how it's evolved. And I, for one, I'll just speak for myself here. You know, there's an age difference between Candace and I, and there have been things that I've noticed over the last 2 years that I hadn't noticed over the, past. I'm not even gonna say the number. And I go, oh my God. Inside I feel a certain way. I feel like I'm 30. And then I look at myself and I go, oh my God, it's my mom. When did I turn into Sharon? I love Sharon. I just didn't think I was her yet. So it's something you have to get used to. And just like you said, Tayloria, even listening to my voice sometimes, and then the hair does all these weird things. I'm like, just get out of your own head, because if I stay stuck there, or if we stayed stuck in places where we were uncomfortable, we wouldn't be sitting here with you today, and this would not be out on social platforms. We literally were keeping it in a really safe place the first few months we did this too. And finally, just a few months ago, it's like, wait, we have too many amazing people we have talked to. And we're not being of true service to them and to our guest unless we share this with other people. So here we are, and now we have a YouTube channel, and we're just we're so proud to have beautiful, wonderful women like you who are doing amazing things to help elevate all of us, and we need to share with everyone. So yeah, I love what you're doing, and it's about pushing past the discomfort. And it sounds like you're really in that zone and really helping people. And I love what you're doing online. In fact, I think you should do videos for Candace and I for the show.
Hey, we can make it happen.
Let's do it.
With that, Terry, one thing you said that I really like and resonate is getting outside of your comfort zone. To add on to that, what happens? That's where the magic happens. And I don't know if you two have probably seen that diagram where it's like comfort zone and magic. And as we're talking about that, the women who are watching are online business owners or business owners running a business. So you do need to put yourself out there. You do need to interact. We want people to realize your areas of genius, your gifts, all of these things that you have to offer. And what I have found is, as we're doing that, it's those regular everyday habits that are going to just have your business off the chart, have your webcast and podcast off the chart. So it may sound easier than done, but it's like being able to recognize those fears and start to take the first step.
Yeah, there's so many ways to show up to now that weren't around even a few years ago, so I was doing a lot of getting my clients through social media quite heavily, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I remember when I signed up for a program and someone was like, hey, they were pretty close to guaranteeing, we can guarantee you'll earn $10,000 a month within 8 weeks following our marketing strategy. And I was like, oh, cool. And then when I got in, they're like, yeah, so you're going to be posting to Facebook every day. And I freaked the hell out because I was not on social media. And so all the things that you're talking about is how I looked, and then not feeling like I was that, it was like a double-edged sword. So perfectionism, which is just insecurity, with an excuse, is perfectionism. But it was like, oh, what are people going to think about me? Like, people already know me on Facebook. They're going to see me out here. They're going to like all this judgment and worrying about what other people thought.
They're real.
Yeah. More than who am I serving and what am I about, And it took me 6 weeks in that program to start seeing results. And I did. I crushed it in that program.
Of course.
But it took me 6 weeks because 3 of those weeks were me arguing with the program leaders about, do I really have to do stuff like that?
To do this? Exactly.
I don't want to. And then, when you're talking about it takes time. And I noticed that I was still uncomfortable, but I did it anyway. And in the beginning, and I did long form posts. So I totally did something that they talked about in this program was not just doing what everybody else is doing, or it's like being true to you. So it was like, I didn't do posts with pictures. I just couldn't handle it. And that was okay. It was like, fine. And I did really long posts because at the time it was like, hey, you should do short posts because people's attention spans. But it's like, I can't say all that I need to say in a short post. And so they were like, fine, do what you got to do if that's the way that helps you show up, but stay consistent with the thing that is natural to you. And then I stumbled. I remember doing posts in the beginning when I was trying to show up and do stuff like, and I was doing, I think, one post every single day. So I wasn't even doing what other people where they were doing like multiple posts.
Yes.
And it would take me like 4 hours to get through one post. And then after that program, they were just coming to me. And it was like, I think I might just go live while I'm sitting in my car at a parking lot because I just had this idea and let me convey it in the moment. Even if I look crazy or there's like weirdos walking behind the car or whatever, you know? And so I really like what you're saying. And now I have I don't like video still. Like it's still really hard. I've got resting smile face too. So when I get really nervous, I just start smiling and I can't stop. And so people will be talking to me about their tragedies. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's horrible.
Doesn't work so well.
You know, doesn't work so well. Yeah.
I like, you first of all, like you took that step, even though you were resistant. I feel like that is a lot of what I hear sometimes is, well, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do back to, does it work? Is it a proven method, approach that works? And the answer is yes. And when it comes to social media, on one hand, all of the social media platforms can work to grow your business. That's the question I get asked probably the most, like what social media should I be on? What is the best for the return on investment? Of course, there's some other layers to that of like knowing where your audience spends their time. But because I am very much, and I love working with purpose-driven entrepreneurs, and I think where my heart goes is we want you still to be aligned. Mm-hmm. And not to force something that doesn't feel well. Does that mean you should never show your face? I would say no, because that is important. But at the same time, what resonates even with you? I've seen you, Candace, really taking off like with podcasts and Clubhouse, which are more audio. And so it's not just a cookie cutter approach. And I think that's probably one of my pet peeves, and not to get on a soapbox here, but it is the cookie cutter approach because Terry, it's like the advertising and marketing principles don't change. It's the tools that change. Mm-hmm. And so I think if we're open to, being aligned, being vulnerable, which that's a whole nother story, as well as, getting out there, getting outside your comfort zone, you will begin to see. And even if it works, it doesn't work. But if you don't even try it, you're never going to know.
Right. So true. And it's interesting because my deepest passion is always really helping other people be seen. And yet I'm super reserved and I get really uncomfortable, in situations where I'm more forward. So the podcasting has been really good for me and it's really helped me with my job because I'm doing a lot more virtual meetings now. Things have shifted and I think they will stay in this direction. So in person will come back in time, but I'm sure it will always be a blend from this point moving forward until the next interesting thing happens.
Until the next.
So there's that disconnect though. For me, it's like, I am all about how can I help Tayloria? Where can I get you opportunities or find cool things for you? Same thing with you, Candace, and other amazing people that I know. But then it's something will drop in. It's like, oh, maybe you should step. Oh no, that's okay. I'm so, but I do really, I love, and this has been such a great platform because it really, it goes back to the thing that I love the most too, which is showcasing other people.
Exactly.
But when I get in my other side of my brain where I'm like looking at how I look on camera or listening to myself and I go, painful. But I love what you're saying about just shift the mindset.
Well, and how would you do that?
This is about Candace. Like I want people to see and know how amazing you are in the same ways that I know how amazing the two of you are.
It is. I think, it's a challenge. I'm smiling too because you're not alone. I feel many times it's, people look at us again, we're sometimes our own worst critic in that inner critic of if I was to, when I watch the show, I have no idea that any of this is going on. And if we can take a little bit of that, I'll just share a story. Last year I did some work and I love all the spiritual things too that you do on the show. And it's part of my journey. And last year I did some work around EFT, emotional freedom technique. But I have to remind myself daily. And to share a little bit of that story, I was able to go back to the age of 4, had no idea that this memory, was even still in there. And my grandmother was a teacher. And so I was on stage. For some of you, I'm maybe dating myself, is that I was wearing a lion costume and I was performing from The Wiz. And so for some of you who may not know, The Wiz is like an adaptation from The Wizard of Oz. It featured Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, many great people. But with that, even at the age of 4, I was sitting there and starting to say, oh my gosh, well, maybe I wasn't saying OMG back then, but but still, I was ahead of my time, but with fear. But with that, on a serious note, I was sitting there with fear and thinking, everyone is looking at me. I'm Mrs. Kenner's granddaughter. I have to be perfect. I can't make any mistakes. But I started really having this fear. And I mean, I have spoke and sang and danced from my early age, but I had to deal with that and really eliminate that negative perception. I didn't even know before. Just recently, I was saying I am a recovering perfectionist, but I've even changed. Lately, I've heard someone say retiring. And I was like, I like that. I'm a retiring perfectionist. But from my early age, I acknowledge it, but I don't have to stay there. Right. I don't have to stay there with that fear. And so I do think it's valuable for us to sometimes just acknowledge, what are we dealing with? Is it with the age? Is it that, but all these different things, Terry, that you mentioned as well. But once you acknowledge that, remembering, why am I doing this? Which I just love how you said, your purpose. You're supposed to help people. I know on a deeper level, I'm supposed to help people consciously create how they show up in this world. Right. The way I do that, I mean, I like to say, your voice fuels your vision. And that is in so many different ways. It doesn't always mean, in the spoken way. So I think if we can continue to acknowledge, but also put some tools in place to move past, we will see more magic happening online.
What do you do though if you're in that moment of, because I have clients and friends who it is terrifying, the idea of, especially the way to connect with people isn't to be salesy. So I notice people who get afraid will throw up a whole bunch of ads, or throw up a bunch of flyers to sell shit. And because they haven't built a connection, it just, people ignore it. And then they feel like, oh, see, I knew it wasn't going to work for me. And that's the extent that they go. And they are terrified to really put themselves out there. And they're also confused about how vulnerable to be. What would your tips be for someone who just can't get past the fear?
The one thing I like to really suggest is some type of accountability. That has helped me tremendously, and that can look different for different people. I mean, I know, Kenneth, you do a lot of work around this. I have worked with you in the past, another Fem City member, on mindset. I think that is extremely valuable. When I also say accountability, what other tools and resources do you need? I have found that it is helpful to have, I often say, I consider myself like your brand bestie. But really someone that is going to be there along your side. I feel like the great thing with Fem City, I took advantage of the accountability group, and Terry as well, earlier this year, surrounding yourself with other women and people who are going to help support you, encourage you, and give you guidance. All of that to say, you don't have to do this alone. It It can be terrifying. Public speaking is one of the biggest fears. We know that. You combine that, actually I think the biggest fear was shown is being alone. So when you think about, you don't have to be alone. There are people who want to help you. Public speaking is scary, even for the best presenters, actors, professional speakers, that you can get support. So Candace, I think, that is part of what I just would encourage, because of course, there's tools and techniques to help you along the way. But if you don't even, I think, admit to say, I need some help, I want some help. And why do I want that? Because I know I've been placed here on this earth. I have a purpose and I want to make a bigger impact and difference in this world. That will help you. And there are tools and resources and people who want to see you succeed. So I don't know, does that help?
I mean, yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. Yeah.
But it's a challenge for many of us, even, for myself. I think many people think, because yes, I realized, Terry, you're always talking about age. I was like 29 years. I have been doing marketing and communications for 29 years, but I also wear that like a badge of honor. That doesn't mean I knew like from birth what to do. No. And in fact, I was reflecting on this. My first job out of college was with the United States Air Force as a civilian in public relations and public affairs. And moving from Ohio to San Antonio, like, it was terrifying. I don't know if any of you are, Candace, you actually worked in government as well. It is like its own subculture. Yeah. And so here I was, I didn't know the language. There's a whole different language and acronyms. I had studied how to do mass communications, but at the same time, I had probably some imposter syndrome and just that learning curve. But fast forward, what was great of having some challenges, having some things that might be considered failures. From that, I was able also to gain tools. They sent me to a school, which is the premier communication school in Fort Meade, Maryland. And, having that, I remember them putting the mic in front of me and I went blank. I had studied, it was like 2.5, and I even said something like, can I do it again? Which, like, in the real world, now granted, this was a training, course, but in the real world, I couldn't. But I'm sharing some of these things, hopefully to let us all see that no one is perfect. No one knows everything from the beginning. But what was really exciting is after doing that, after having some mistakes and getting more practice and actually doing it, I felt extremely comfortable. Right. And thinking about that 21, 22-year-old girl to now, it's like, if we, hopefully as entrepreneurs, we can think about that as well. Like, you're not where you started, but the way you're going to be better at being visible is to do it.
You have to show up.
You have to show up. Things are going to happen, but like, how amazing. And I remember, in fact, I think I even have the VHS tape, a piece of it. I think it got recorded, part of it got recorded over, but to go from that, thank goodness, to go from that to being even selected to be a media spokesperson and a representative for a visit with President Clinton, it was like, wow. To train a 4-star general, wow. And even now to be able to take that experience and help other entrepreneurs, it's what fuels me, because there's times when I don't want to show up, but I'm reminded, not from a brag standpoint, but I really believe God has blessed me. When we say God and spirit and universe has blessed me with these gifts, and I'm doing a disservice to other women and global professionals if I don't share all the knowledge that I've been given, the experiences to help them move forward. So I know we keep going back. I really feel a big part of being able to get visible is connecting back to, why are you doing this in the first place? It will help you so much get beyond yourself, but just also know, like, no one is perfect. You hear me say this because in my mind, remember, I'm a retiring perfectionist.
Yeah, retiring perfectionist is gold, right? And
Exactly. I'll make a mistake today. I think even in my Facebook group recently, I was rewatching it and I said entrepreneurship. Like I realized I made up a whole new word. I'm like, but fortunately it just stopped because guess what? If somebody watches it and they see that one thing, like, is that the end of the world? I always like to say, like, what is the worst that can happen? If we really go through those worst case scenarios, what really is the worst that can happen? Someone will say, oh, Taylor, I can't believe you said entrepreneurship. Right. We're moving. But they had to watch it. They had to
right.
Watch it.
Right.
We're moving so fast. I mean, that's where we get stuck in our own heads. It's like, they don't care. People don't really care about what other people are doing. So
exactly.
Right. We just get up, we show, we just do the work, and we do it from our authentic selves and
authentic self
and our heart. Like, why are we doing
yes.
that? We're all really clear about that. So you've really given me some relief just this morning, since before we started, just with going back to the water, and I that's there, but it just sunk in a little deeper this morning when we talked right before we started recording.
It is.
So,
and when you share that, I appreciate you both. And when you share that, I just want to encourage other entrepreneurs who may be watching. Each one of us is so unique. Mm-hmm. So even though sometimes we may think, oh, there's a bunch of people selling media or candles, or how many psychics or mediums are out there, there's, on one hand, I love that there's enough business for everyone. I truly am a believer of community over competition, but also just to recognize no one is exactly like you. That may sound a little cliche, but it's true. No one is exactly like you. And so if you can begin to recognize your gifts, it's like, that's why we resonate with certain people. I like to call them my soul clients, my soul, because I truly believe they're already out there in the spiritual realm. But back to visibility. I'm not saying they can't come at all. Candace, maybe there is there's another conversation, but like, I do believe we have to do our part. We have to still take intentional action to show up so that we can actually connect with them.
Well, absolutely. And that just goes back to, what is visibility for us individually? Like, not everybody has to do the same thing. And there are people who love to post and do lives. I think of like big entrepreneurs like Gary Vee, serial entrepreneur, where he's doing like 1,000 lives every day, but he loves it. And there are other people who they do word of mouth. So it's still visibility, but and it's a little bit different because of everything with the pandemic. But that was their main strategy, is like, and that sustained them. But it's still visibility. It's just not what everybody, what it seems like everybody else is doing. And
true.
I'm really
so many different ways.
Exactly. Right. So I think it's like, people really can lean into what's the thing that you feel comfortable doing right now. And like, Tayloria's TikToks are amazing. I follow her across all social platforms. I'm not brave enough to be on TikTok, but I am on Instagram. So she shares some of her videos there.
Well, just to clarify, I'm actually on Instagram.
Like Instagram, and is it Reels that you're doing?
Reels.
Instagram Reels, because I see some of the things you do. It was like, that is so amazing and bold. I would never in a million years, like, never. It was phenomenal, the things that you're doing there. It's like, it's so creative. And it, like, you don't have that much time. Like on the Reels, it's just like
to 30 seconds, which are a little shorter than TikTok.
Like, blows my brain.
That's a prime example. And I will just admit, one that I did probably a couple weeks ago, I almost talked myself out of it. Again, like, it was already recorded. And then I thought, oh, like, all these fears that we're talking about, and it performed like extremely well. And so kind of sharing back those same things. It doesn't mean you're going to not go through those different thought processes, but the beauty of doing it. And just for some of you who may be watching it, I was rapping, like lip syncing. I wasn't actually rapping, but I was lip syncing. But it was to, but I also, it has made my job so much easier. I have been able to see who is my audience. I know the age group, and it was after I did, it's like, of course, it isn't a surprise, because I feel like that was dropped in my spirit to do it, but I still had to do it. And then
Yes.
from that, it was ultimately, promoting a program that I have, but it also was like, it brought this nostalgia, and it's okay. Like, I knew millennials or Generation Z, but it wasn't for them. And some who maybe enjoyed it. So, those are, I think, the beautiful parts of getting visible in your own way is, back to, you are all unique. In fact, my mother even sent me something, Candace, and because I had posted through Facebook, through stories, and she was like, "I remember you were so crazy about." It was LL Cool J, so
Yeah, it was.
yeah.
Yeah.
She was like, "You were so crazy," and then she said, "But I guess you both turned out okay." Well, we
I love
laughed
it.
about
I
it.
love
And,
it.
so
And
kind of just back to the fun that you can have about, we're multifaceted, and that's what it also is going to resonate with your audience.
Well,
I go ahead, Terry. Sorry.
I'll be real super quick. You said something in there that made me think, of Candace and the work that she's doing,
Yes.
which is trust your intuition, trust your intuition. You're like, God, Spirit, Universe gave you like this download. Well, I think I need to do this. And then it's like,
Yes.
not just squelch it, but follow through, because it came from
It's true.
somewhere. And we
Right.
wouldn't have the idea or the dream or the vision for it if it wasn't supposed to maybe go someplace else. So
Right.
it's sort of, again, goes back to trusting
It's
intuition.
trusting. I really believe, because I also resonate with that, from our purpose is our calling,
Mm.
from a spiritual place. You have been called. No one else can do it the way you can do it, but are you listening? In fact, weekly I send out an email called Love Whispers, and no other solicitation or anything like that, but it was, I had actually stopped doing it. I'll just be honest. I'd stopped. I was like, oh, it's not so time consuming or anything, but I thought, oh, is anybody really reading these? And then after I stopped, I had a couple of entrepreneurs and even FEM say, I really enjoyed those love whispers, or how did you know what, and I would get some responses, how did you know exactly what I was thinking or what I needed? And so that, I feel, is just another example of, I've started them back, but it's my way. I mean, also part of my journey from even childhood to, I shouldn't say I was, but I ministered in a church, and it's like, of course that's a piece of me, that's a core part of me, of that I'm supposed to be able to sow into people, and to encourage them and inspire them. So just another piece. I know that's kind of off the beaten path, but hopefully it just goes into, we are called to do these things in some form or fashion, and when you accept that and when you listen, no idea is crazy, I think.
Right. I love that. And I just want to grab two things. The first
Yes.
is, you totally Terry Deaned us, because you just casually slipped in that you did work with former President Clinton and a 4-star general, and then you moved the hell on with no other explanation. So that's the stuff that Terry pulls, like, oh, back when I did this amazing thing, and then she just keeps talking. So I just want to acknowledge that you did that. It's fine. And the other thing that popped into my mind is what you said about, oh, this showed me who my audience is. And part of being visible is accepting that you're going to repel people, but you want to repel and get everyone, like all the people who might criticize or say whatever, you want them to consciously move away from you. And if that happens, that means that your message is getting clearer, which is good, because it draws in and magnetizes your core people who will buy or want to work with you, and repel the people who just, if everyone's kind of hanging on, then you're probably not being as specific, And I'm really, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just was agreeing. Like, you have captured so much of what is branding, and back to your audience and all these other things. Like, you just said it beautifully.
You did.
Thank you. Yeah. So, well, I'm in your group, by the way. But you also didn't mention, like, that one you did mention, but that's okay. We'll get that at the end. I'm in Tayloria's a visibility group, so I could get better at it, because, it really is easier for me if I'm not an entrepreneur alone, like by myself doing things, I work better with accountability for sure. And along those lines, Tayloria, can you share some of the results or the impact that you or your clients have made as they've gotten more visible, or if they've, embraced the things that you teach?
I feel like this is the exciting part for every entrepreneur. It's when you're able to utilize those gifts and talents to actually help, to serve others. And that is what's rewarding for me in the area of helping female entrepreneurs like build confidence and show up. It gives me life. So I'll just share, recently I had an entrepreneur. She's a female barber up in New York, upstate New York. And she came to me, and this is where the issue came up about, she came to me because she wanted more revenue. Yes, we want to be able to help you grow your business. And she had done some research. She knew other barbers out there who, particularly on Instagram, she wanted to not mimic, but have a similar following, a similar presence, but recognizing her authentic gifts. And from that, it came up. She would just ended up telling me, I've gained weight. I really don't, feel comfortable. Maybe I'll start showing up more when I lose some weight. But then after we peel these different layers away, it was like, from a mindset standpoint, okay, but when she even told me she met her husband at the barbershop, how many, probably for male, I don't know if any males are watching this, go ahead and comment, but that's a dream. You're beautiful. She really is beautiful. And then to have these men and even meet your husband. So we laughed about that, but it was getting clear on her strategy, being able to really hone in on how she could utilize content. Because again, everything doesn't have to be your face. It's back to getting visible. So we were able to dive in deep. And I saw one of her posts today, and she's doing Instagram stories. And I'm so excited for her because she also is sent back to say, I'm getting clients, and then taking the action. And that's where I feel that's that supportive part of, don't give up, keep doing it. You're not necessarily going to see results overnight, but think of that in a positive and negative way too, because, maybe if you have a fear of those strong reactions, it doesn't mean you have to do something controversy, on the biggest blog of, in the world. Right. The next day. That probably is not going to happen. So again, it's if we can get beyond some of these self-sabotaging, thoughts, to me, it just is exciting to see, women step into their power and say, you know what? Yeah, I'm badass. And I appreciate, that supportive partner, the experience, the guidance, but ultimately I still believe it lies in here. I'm just that supportive partner to help bring it out.
Right.
So
that's amazing.
Those are the, like I say, the wins. The wins is really being able to see women grow their business, utilizing, visibility, social media, marketing, all of these things. It can happen. It can happen for anyone.
Right on.
Love
why not me?
I mean, real talk. Yeah.
Yes.
Why not? Why not you?
Yes.
Right.
So not being afraid. It's you really can do it. And so I think exercising that muscle, if we think about it, even in those terms, it's how much more can you do? But it's taking that first step, and that it can be a small step. I think that's something else I just want to encourage women is it doesn't have to be this huge thing. All of a sudden tomorrow you're going to go live, you're going to talk for 1 hour. No. It's take a step back, and it can be pre-recorded. You can write a blog. You can so many other ways. You can do an ebook, but just getting visible. So like I said, we can talk ourselves out of things before we even do it.
Right.
So
I love having you join us, and I think you just have to be on here with us
again. Yeah.
Well, well, thanks. I think, if I can say, I've been really excited to see because many of the guests I've known of or known in some form or fashion, but the two of you, the way that you've been able to pull out like different aspects of people that I had no idea. I'm thinking, one entrepreneur told me this, and I use it. It resonates a lot with me. Is people will pay you for what you know, not for what you do. And I think 1, 2, 3 conversations, what's nice is I thought she was, you know, this type of coach. I thought she was a hairdresser. It's like, oh no, she is so much more.
Right.
So I think that's, again, like kind of back to the conversation of getting visible, but also the beauty of platforms like this, what it allows us to see. And people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
That's
And it's
right.
like, how are they going to know you and build those relationships? So I appreciate both of you of utilizing this platform to showcase all of the beautiful talents and multifaceted, ways that female entrepreneurs are showing up.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a gift truly for us. And having Candace by my side,
Yes.
the process, talk about the support piece. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, Candace is the reason that I have as much fun with this as I do, no doubt. And yeah, I feel so blessed. I think I said that last week too with Andrea. I was like, we are just so blessed, and
Wonderful. It's
there are so
wonderful
many.
though.
Yeah, and it's about sharing story. It's a soft entry where people can get to know you in a place and in a way that's not intimidating. No one's trying to sell you anything, but there are things that resonate
Right.
about a person's story, maybe with someone sitting in another country or in another state, and they go, "Oh my gosh, like I had no idea this person was even on the planet, and I have to meet them. I
Right.
have to work with them." So, and we've had multiple guests come back and say we ended up with new clients from
Right.
being on the show. So we are really, really grateful to hear the ripple effect, down the road, how things are unfolding for the guests that we've been fortunate to have join us. So thank
Exactly. It's like
you.
that. Thank you. Thank you both again.
Yeah. You
It's
can't get
exciting.
away. I hear you wrapping up. And last thing is, how do people get a hold of you? And do you have anything
Okay.
that's coming up?
All right. Well, again, we are to this part. It's like, no, I'm not trying to rant. Of course, I can talk to both of you for days, but I want to be respectful. If you, I think for the listeners, if you're thinking, could I use maybe more help, or am I on the right platforms? What are other ways that I could show up and be visible? What I'm striving to do, I just, I guess 2 weeks ago, started a Facebook group called The Art of Visibility for female online entrepreneurs. And I'd love to have you. I said, we would love to have you, because my goal is really to build a community that we can be supportive and like-minded, because all of these things we've talked about today, you are not alone. And those are the real honest conversations that we have. But at the same time, it's been great to see, even in this short amount of time, the support, the ideas, the sharing that happens. So that would be a great way. It's called The Art of Visibility for female online entrepreneurs, right on Facebook. And then, as we have talked a lot about Instagram, also my name, I know it's not the easiest spelling or common name, but Tayloria Grant. I'm also on there, and you can find me. But I'd love to connect and help you step up and shine even brighter.
Right on. And we'll have a link to the Facebook group and your website and stuff in the show notes. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the description, or in the show notes if you're listening to us in another platform.
Oh,
right on. And how can people find you, Terry Dean?
Terry Dean. It's so cute, Candace. So a lot of people call me Terry Dean. They go, Terry Dean. I'm like,
I said it earlier too.
Your name just works that way. It's amazing.
You can find me on LinkedIn. First name Terry, Terri. Last name Dean, Dean. And you can find me on any of the Fem City sites. And a couple things before we go, Tayloria, I would like for you to add me to your love notes for sure. Put my email address. And then I'll join the Art of Visibility because I don't think I'm in your group. So I'll make sure I do that. And just to kind of, put the cherry on the ice cream that you've given us, we really are better together. There's just, in my opinion, no question about that. And even when we have these great wins in life, what's the first thing you want to do when you have a great win? You jump up, you dance, you scream, do whatever, but you want to call somebody and you want to share it with, you want to share your victories with the people around you. And so, yeah, I love what you're doing, Tayloria.
I love this. I get to do a show with one of my best friends and favorite people in the whole wide world.
Me
and
too.
I didn't get a chance to just ditto everything that you said about me, Terry, right back at you. And also, you can find me on Candace Thomas, CandaceThomasIntuitive.com. Mm-hmm. And I'm also on Instagram at Candace Intuitive. And I'm also trying out Clubhouse. And I'm just Candace Thomas on Clubhouse, where I do, depending on the time that you're watching it, I do weekly shows every Thursday at 12, where we just practice intuition or talk about intuition. So 12 Mountain Standard Time. And as always, come back. So we do 1, 2, 3 conversations. We have new shows that go up every single week, featuring different leaders or experts, just talking about their best ways to move forward so that you are inspired, motivated, or even if you just need strategies or tools that can help you in whatever situation that you're in. So thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.
1, 2, 3.